Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
Myself, Stephen.
It's been one of them starts again. People, you okay, Steve? Steve's having fun.
Sorry, my wire was caught in the chair.
Sorry, it sounds painful. Okay, sorry about that, folks. We had an actual software crash with our software. And it hasn't happened before. We've had problems before, but not so near the time as it was. And anyway, we're back up and running, and we are live. Good evening. Welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. It's Sunday, the 6th of September, 2015. Maybe it's the energy in the air. I don't know. Maybe there's other reasons for it, but it's just one of them things. Are we still broadcasting there, Steve?
Yep, we are indeed.
Fantastic stuff. Okay, now, our guest on the show tonight is a chap called Dr. Simon Atkins. And we're going to be getting Simon in a few minutes and having a chat with him about WaveX predictions and everything else related to that. Now, we've had an unbelievable week, loads of things going on, and we have some fantastic guests coming on the show in the next few weeks, starting off obviously with Dr. Simon, and loads of information about what's going on. And we are in the month of September, loads of predictions about what's going on in September, so I'm sure we're going to be touching base on that. The Alan and Steve's week, we're going to leave till after we speak to Dr. Simon, because we want to maximise the time that we have with Dr. Simon and about what we're going to talk about. But there's a couple of things that we will touch base on. Steve's just been doing a little bit of work on the website, so if you want to tell us about that, Steve. Oh, by the way, before we do that, let's tell people what the communication channels are, of course.
Yes, if you want to contact us, this is how you should do it.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, 046 927 1212 is the number for the studio. If you're going to ring in from outside the Republic of Ireland, it's going to be 00353 46927 1212. We also have, on the website there, we have 3 streams available for the listening pleasure. The OYM stream, and we're crossing our fingers here that everything stays as it should. The OYM stream is streaming. We have the United We Strike stream in the US of A, and we also are on People's Internet Radio across Ireland and across the globe. On the website there, we also have anti-social media, which is the Facebook link. You will see that on the left-hand side of the website, which is oymradio.com. Also, down the bottom of the website is a link there for the TuneIn Radio app. If you have that on your smartphone or your iPhone or one of those kind of the Android devices, you can get that. It's a very popular application, TuneIn Radio. We're on that as well, and we shall be streaming away there too. And we also have the chat room on the website as well. Big hi to everybody logged into the chat room, and you're all very welcome. Again, sorry for the late start. And also to everyone on People's Internet Radio on the chat room there as well. We will be monitoring both of the chat rooms for your questions for Simon Atkins this evening. Alan.
Brilliant, Steve. Okay, we have GRA Hello said that the elastic band on the hamster wheel came off. It's actually, we need more hamsters.
The hamster died.
We need more power. We have to get more hamsters. Right, okay, before we get Dr. Simon on, Steve, you're going to tell us about the work that you've been doing on the site, just so our listeners know what's going on.
Yeah, well, anyone who's kind of going to be going on and downloading the podcast or listening to the podcasts online, you're not going to notice any real difference at all. However, we were storing all the podcasts on our local server, and unfortunately we were having a couple of issues there with the server and bandwidth, and a lot of people trying to access podcasts, and it was kind of crashing the system, because especially after the show we done with David Wilcox and Corey Good, it was total meltdown that night. I'm sure everyone will remember that. But so what we've actually done is we've transferred all of the podcasts over to a different server, which is a Fastcast server. So when you go on and you listen to the podcast or you download it, instead of downloading it from our local server here, you will be downloading it from the Fastcast server. You won't notice any difference. It's just something that we've done to try and ease the burden on our own server.
Yeah, popularity.
Yeah, we're just too popular.
You're just too popular, that's what it is. Okay, Now, Steve's going to tell us, before we get Dr. Simon in, Steve's going to tell us all about Dr. Simon. Well, a little bit about Dr. Simon. I'm sure there's a load more to talk about.
Well, he was born. He was a lovely baby. His parents loved him. Now, Dr. Simon Atkins is a climate risk economist, a planetary threat forecaster, solar expert, and energy medicine doctor. Simon is also an informant for the people, a spiritual pacifist, and modern-day monk. Call him a compassionate fighter for sovereign freedom, with a goal to move the planet forward in positive ways. In the spring of 2014, his book series, Skyaia, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, was published, starting with Volume 1, Control or Freedom. This is all about a massive awakening on our planet, accelerating at this time. Nowadays, Simon is sought all over the world for his sharing exciting solutions in climate, business, health and individual freedom. And we're delighted to have him here on OYM this evening.
Brilliant. Dr. Simon, good evening. How are you doing?
Well, jolly good evening to you, gents. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Well, as you know, we had a little bit of a glitch at the start, but there you go. When we have somebody that comes on the show that is popular and has information that the powers that be don't want to go out, sometimes we come across these problems. And I'm sure you're probably familiar with things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least you didn't wet your nappies.
No, of course not. No, we've come across these problems before. We're okay. We're big boys. Okay.
We've got a separate cupboard in the back of the office just for those types of things, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll try later after the show. But for now, we'll crack on with the interview. Listen, thanks a lot for coming on the show. You have your own show on YouTube. I know, I've seen a few of them, and some brilliant information. But tell us a bit more. I've just read a little bit of your bio, but tell us a bit more about yourself and how you got involved in this and how you woke up to what was going on.
Well, that's a 3-hour interview right there, Alan. I really appreciate you asking, because the number one reason why I decided to come on your show was, number one, it's all about open your mind, and that's what I am all about. If I went to a party and I said, yes, I'm Simon, I'm all about let's open our minds. And we are at a critical junction in the history of humanity right now. I don't think we've ever been at a period whereby we could go left to more control or right to more freedom than now. We're at a serious T-junction. And what it's going to take is people like yourselves getting out information that is critical to awakening humanity. And so my whole life has been about taking large enough risks to expand my mind and to travel the world. I've been very fortunate, if I may be so humble in saying to everybody that I've been to 71 countries. I know some people that have been to 150, but I've actually lived in quite a few of them. And what it did is it kind of made me a multicultural being, whereby I started to understand the language of humanity. So rather than just understand Russians are Russians and Irish are Irish and Uruguayans are Uruguayans, there was actually a connecting thread in that everybody wants peace, love, security, and abundance. And so I decided after my near-death experience in 2009 that I would bring more joy to the planet at a multi-dimensional platform. And I know that's going to sound pretty woo-woo to the non-converts, as you may call them, but essentially what it means, gentlemen, is that we have to communicate through our hearts at a telepathic level to move energy in the planet against the negative, or some people call them dark forces. Let me be very blunt in explaining that. What I mean by that is that there is and has been and always probably will be a certain duality. And in that duality, we are literally commanding our own energy forces separately and collectively towards a certain point, because there's no time. So we're just moving down a pathway. And in that pathway, when we decide as a collective that humanity deserves more peace and love and abundance and security, then we will achieve it. And that's what I'm here to do.
Excellent. Okay. Well, you know, I suppose in our own individual way, we're all doing our little bit to try and move the consciousness of the planet ahead. Now, the one thing that you're obviously known for is talking about the Wave X and the Wave X predictions. Now, we've had a number of people on the show talking about Planet X, and there's hundreds of photos out there of a physical item in the sky. Now, you know, people might say, well, it's a sky anomaly or whatever, but there's hundreds and hundreds of photos. They can't be all CGI. And we've had guests on the show who've physically taken photos from their back garden of a body near the sun. So, and I know you talk about Wave X. Now, is Wave X on top of Planet X, i.e., both of them are the two individual things, or are you saying there's no Planet X, but there's only a Wave X?
All right, so this is a very, very important question, and it requires an answer that is perhaps very controversial.
Right.
First of all, for the last year, I've been doing a show called The Skyaia Show, and that's how you pronounce it, S-K-Y-A-I-A. Basically, it comes from two different terms, sky, S-K-Y, everything in the universe and cosmos, and then Gaia, as in Mother Gaia, the theory that our planet is a living, breathing organism. And so when you take away the G, you're left with Skyaia, SKYAIA.com. And so that's where I'm broadcasting every week, Monday evenings at 8 p.m., and we're talking about many of the different things, including Wave X. All right. Now, obviously, and I've heard it and I've read it, your station and other stations, you're bringing on people that say, yes, there is a physical object out there, and this goes back to 1983 or so forth in the New York Times, where they've quoted NASA as saying, look, there's some body out there, and we're just going to call it Planet X. But tonight, I hope I can, with a certain amount of freedom, describe and pretty much elucidate on what's really going on. The planet, so to speak, that people are seeing in the sky and are saying, oh yeah, that's Planet X, is it starts with different levels of information. So, for example, if I've been hearing that, there's a lost dog, and I'm going to give you an analogy here, a symbolistic analogy. If I hear in a certain neighborhood that there's a dog lost, and there's lots of postings on every lamppost, what's the first thing I'm going to do? Well, I'm going to go and look for the dog. But what if somebody has just put up those signs for the lost dog, and there really isn't a lost dog? So the first layer, gentlemen, and I want you to kind of open your mind on this, no pun intended, is to think, okay, is this something that we're all following because we've been told that there was something happening? And this happens a lot in the news. So, for example, if the news says, oh, the economy is crashing, we've got, terrible numbers on unemployment, there'll actually be a higher number of people that won't apply to a certain job sector because they've been told that those jobs are not available. And it's the same thing here with the Planet X. It's been done extremely carefully. And this is part of the awakening that I want people to see, is that we are being brainwashed and deceived. And you guys always use the word discernment, discernment, discernment.
Yeah.
So the first thing, the first layer is be very discernful, because, you have to go back into the history of things like MK Ultra and other CIA projects where the humanity is actually deceived. And this deception just goes multiple levels deep to it makes look, Alice in Wonderland look great. So that's the first level, right, the deception. The second thing is that people have said, oh, no, but I bought a 700-pound or, $1,000 telescope, and I've actually seen something, with a winged planet or a winged light coming out of it, and so forth. And so, I'm not going to get on air and say, I doubt you because you've seen X, Y, Z. But here's the piece that I finally figured out that is missing. You ready for it?
Go ahead.
Outside of the main part of our magnetosphere, the top level of the planet, just beyond that, so in fact, just beyond where, so to speak, satellites are revolving or, let's say, traversing the planet. I know there's a lot of people out there that are believing in the flat earth theory. Maybe we'll get into that this evening. But essentially, just beyond that orbit area, the dimensional set that we're used to down here living on the planet shifts. In other words, beyond that certain distance, the electric universe shifts. And this is the reason why people can track back and note that certain pictures taken by NASA and certain satellite pictures do not show stars. Whereas down here on the planet, we obviously can see the stars. So what happens is it's very, very complex, and this is what Dr. Stephen Hawking and other astrophysicists get into, gentlemen, is that there are more than 14 dimensions at the very least, and part of that new dimensional force, or dimensional platform, as I call it, starts immediately outside the Earth. And by the way, this is the main reason, I hope we can get into this also, that it's very controversial. This is why a human moon landing has never happened. And this is where I disagree with people, very respectively, of course, like with people like Corey Goode, because we have not been able to figure out how to safely go through this multidimensional set. And so when you actually look through this multidimensional set, it changes everything. And the powers that be have been able to already force feed into that multidimensional system whatever they want to portray. And it's done through a very, very high-powered, and I've been joining the dots. Obviously, I haven't seen this technology on my desk, but I've been joining the dots scientifically, and it seems like it's a very expensive, black ops, trillion-dollar-plus instrumentation / technology that can actually holographically portend or portray a certain amount of information, whether it's visual, auditory, or in other dimensions, and that means telepathic, people can be actually programmed and things like that. So that goes down a whole can of worms.
Well, I have to, I was going to say, when you're talking about that, the AI comes to mind because that seems to be the buzzword now. Everybody's talking about, are we AI controlled?
Yes.
above the elite.
Yes, and you know why that word has become AI, artificial intelligence, why it's become so popular is because this is the next stage of the awakening in humanity, mass understanding, the next onion, sort of the next peel of the onion. And it's so deep that this is the reason why we truly just don't know so much. Like, we don't know what really our planet looks like. I can tell you as a scientist, it's definitely not round. And I know a lot of people are going to poo-poo now me from now on. They're not going to speak to me. They're not going to do X, Y, and Z because my reputation is X. Oh, and I thought you were a scientist that does this. Now you're crazy. But now is about truth-telling time. Because we're realizing that, for example, Dr. Stephen Hawking, I'll bring him up again if I may, he's just said that the black hole is the beginning of a parallel universe or another universe, at least a portal to another set of dimensions. And that just came out a couple of weeks ago. So what we're doing is, well, the establishment, and by the way, Stephen Hawking is in a part of that establishment. He is releasing parts of data which has been hidden for us. So, for example, you probably reported on this just a couple of months ago, astronauts that, quote-unquote, had said that they've been on the moon, just came out and said, yes, we saw some kind of other entity presence.
Yeah.
And we felt it. And this has come out. So it's all being directed for future events, namely that one being, yes, we are joined by other cosmic journeying entities on Earth, and going back to Planet X. Once you push out this hologram, all these people that are buying these telescopes, they think they're seeing a planet, but it's not. It's actually a wave of galactic, multidimensional, and that's the key word, multidimensional electromagnetic energy that comes through the planet Earth, and shifts us at an evolutionary level. Evolution is changing, literally, in the next few months.
Right, okay. And you have confirmed this, have you?
I have.
Right, okay. And this wave, that's going to hit the planet. What's it going to do? What's going to happen?
Well, we're already in the throes of it. I came out in early August and I said, actually it was early July, I said, now we're in the 90-day window of the peak energy. Now realize that this wave has been coming probably since about the end of 2012, but it's kind of like the 90-10 rule. 90% of the wave X energy has come, let's say, in the last 2 to 3 years, but it's actually been the weakest part. So 90% has come, but it's actually been the 10% of the weakest. Now we've got the 10% strongest energy of the wave X, and that's what people are feeling and hearing. So, for example, just in the last few years, we've had those very weird sounds that you've probably seen on YouTube a lot, and we've obviously been through a lot of them, hundreds of them reported. There's fake ones, but there's real ones. You know what I'm talking about? It's like that weird bending whale noise.
Yeah, we've heard them.
Like, how would you describe it, gentlemen? Like something's getting twisted or bent, like metal?
It's like, it'd be like, no, I know this is probably not it, but it's like the core of the Earth moving or shifting. But you can't pinpoint it. But it's like something underneath is just moving. That's the way I kind of describe it. You can hear it. You can hear it shifting. You can hear it like as if it's rolling or something moving.
That's it. It's a rolling noise. It's like a whale crying, but plus like a creaky door in an echo kind of chamber format. Anyway, look that up if you don't know what we're speaking about, people, because it is what I call dimensional bending or interdimensional transference. It's literally a portal of a multi-dimensional space coming smack bang up to our three-dimensional space and literally trying to work its way in there, kind of like you've got a piece of wood in a vise and you're trying to shove in some kind of sharper instrument, like, let's say, a screwdriver or something like that. Like you're turning a nail into the wood in a piece of vise. That's when you get that dimensional noise, and that's what people are hearing. And I do want to make a certain warning that if you are getting those types of noises in your area, it means that that area is going to suffer from more natural disasters in the next 18 months than other places that are not hearing it. And the reason is because everything has to do with magnetics. When the sun sends out a stream of very, very high-powered magnetic energy, like, for example, on a solar flare or coronal mass ejection, CME, it hits that magnetosphere, that top level of the Earth, and ripples through and changes all types of things, like it changes the pressure on the tectonic plates, it changes climate, it causes more extremes. That's why we've had more climate extremes for the last 10 years. It also causes a much higher risk of tsunami, and by the way, we've got a large tsunami watch in the Mediterranean right now with a high probability of a very large earthquake before the end of October in or around Turkey and Iran.
Okay, and what are the symptoms of this energy that's hitting the planet? Because people have said that they're feeling all different kinds of feelings, and they're not feeling too well.
Are you there, gentlemen?
Sorry? Yeah, can you hear us?
Well, if anybody can still hear me, this is very interesting, because while the gentleman...
Oh, have we lost Simon? Have we lost Simon, Sid?
Yep.
Okay, we just got a disconnect. We're just trying to hook up with Simon again. Quite interesting, because we've heard from a lot of people that they're feeling all different kinds of things regarding the energy hitting the planet. All kinds of type of things that are going on. And one of the things was people feeling, I don't know, getting tired or lethargic or something like that. But we'll find out from Simon. Simon, are you there?
Yes, I think so.
We just lost you there for a minute. Very strange. What are the symptoms that people are experiencing with this wave hitting the planet?
Well, you know what? As you had said before we started the call, Alan and Steve, it's almost like the powers that be take us off air when we're just about to get into some of the juicy stuff, or they are fed up with what we've just said. So it's kind of a confirmation to me when this happens. And like you just said, in 5 years of your broadcasting, right, never had you had so many problems.
Yeah. That's right.
I think, and this is said in a very humble way because I don't take any credit for myself, we are waking up as a humanity together. But when I started using first the term Wave X, now there's certain people that are sort of calculating based upon Google Analytics and other things that about 50 million people are now speaking about Wave X or something about a wave of energy hitting the planet. So, this is very, very important that we know what's going on. And like you said, there's a lot of health sort of effects or impacts that we're feeling.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just feeling vertigo. They get pain around their heart. They're getting palpitations, ringing in the ears, headaches, pulsing at the side of the head. They just feel extremely tired. Their sort of eating habits are shifting, and they're having trouble sleeping. And there's just a lot more. Like, for example, if you want to go sort of into stage 2 symptoms, people feel as though they're wearing a hat, even though there's nothing on their head. And this is the crown chakra opening up. And gentlemen, as you may know, my sort of reputation is I combine science and spirituality, and I call it spirit science. And I think that this is kind of also a part of this frequency shift, the word that I was giving to this whole wave of energy coming in before I gave it the Wave X term. The number one thing that seems to be happening more and more is people are getting certain gifts, like clairvoyance, clairsentience, other gifts. They're feeling communication with animals and plants. And I know there's a lot of people out there like, oh my God, this is way beyond what I can accept as true. But you have to remember that millions of people are just going through many different shifts and this is the real key, these gifts are coming because the planet is shifting at a multi-dimensional element. I mean, people are even getting the ability to feel certain electric force fields. They're being able, gentlemen, to quickly heal. They can mind read. And the other one is, of course, premonitions. But, of course, this has been happening since, the 60s and 70s. But I would say the main thing that's coming in that the powers that be really want to tap into is what they call transhumanism. And it's really feeling like, they can last forever, that they want to live for 300-400 years. But what all those Google owners and all those negative powers that be, if I may call them that, are doing is they're talking from their ego. And when we talk at a spiritual level, we're talking and feeling from our heart. And in the same thing as transhumanism, it's really about the gift of eternal youth. That when you raise your vibration and you're functioning at a 4th or 5th dimension of peace and love, you actually can appear to age less and then actually reverse that, and especially by taking many different products that are really excellent for your health, you can actually reverse the aging at a small amount. Like literally for every year that you age, you can only go forward maybe 6 or 7 months in aging. It's fantastic, these gifts that are coming in.
Brilliant. Well, I can definitely say I've spoken to people regarding changes in their lifestyle, and definitely they're tired, they're lethargic, and diets have changed. They can't eat food that they used to eat, and they've just changed completely. And, again, some people have said to me they've noticed it since 2012, believe it or not, that's when it started to happen.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Look, if I can read this out, it's a few paragraphs. It's from an employee. I won't say any more than that because he or she, I can't even say that, wants to remain completely anonymous. But it's from one of the best neurological and medical research centers in America. And she said that she's been hearing about interviews on Wave X and near-death experiences and medical observations. And she was wondering if you would like to hear about what they've been noticing at that neurological center.
Of course, go ahead.
Beautiful, beautiful. So she says basically, or he says, in the last 4 to 6 weeks, we're seeing an increase of patients coming in with migraine headaches so severe that the patients need to get a pain relief injection or IV. Many of the headache patients who are coming in are those who haven't had that severe of a headache for a long time, maybe even years, and they're surprised that they're being hit with them now, and they say things like, this just came out of nowhere. We're also seeing an increase in younger people in their 50s and 60s coming in with memory issues, confusion, and even disorientation. And we usually see people in their mid to late 70s or older coming in for memory issues, such as dementia and Alzheimer's disease, but not so much in this younger age range. Several of these people come into our clinic with the symptoms of these diseases, and after they go through the diagnostic protocols, it's been determined that they don't actually have those illnesses, even though they're manifesting the symptoms. May I go on?
Yes, go ahead.
Beautiful. More people are being referred with shaking and tremors to be checked out for Parkinson and Huntington's disease. Again, they're manifesting all the symptoms, but they don't meet the diagnostic requirements that indicate that they have the disease. It's my belief that these increases in patients, and there are thousands, are the effects of the frequency shift / WaveX / galactic superwave of love, as it's otherwise known. We're getting so many referrals right now that the headache clinic has a 6-month to 1-year waiting list to get in, depending on the doctor that they were referred to. And the movement disorders and cognitive disorders clinics are backed up 3 to 6 months.
Wow. That's an awful lot.
And what made me really surprised about this is she said my co-workers who don't know anything about WaveX are expressing extreme fatigue and tiredness. Several of them over the last few weeks are calling sick with frequent upset stomachs, headaches, and flu, but not quite the flu-like symptoms. And she says that the things that stand out is the extreme tiredness. We're going through so much coffee lately, it's crazy.
That's incredible. And these, you're saying that this WaveX is going to accumulate or peak at the end of September?
Actually, it's mid to late October.
Okay.
So get this, and just allow me to jump in with a thought if I have it, because I know we've got so much to share with your viewership.
Yeah.
So essentially, WaveX, gentlemen, is split up. Well, we split it up to make it easier to understand into 3 main phases. The first one was the end of July to mid-August. The second wave was through mid-September, and the third wave is through the 20th of October. Now, we've actually got it down algorithmically because we're monitoring all the parameters on the sun, including sunspots, solar flares, and so forth. And NASA has solar sunspot activity databases going back to, I think it's the 1760s. And what we've done is we've taken all this data plus health data and reams of other data, and we've made an algorithm. And it actually predicts, this is how AFC, Advanced Forecasting Corporation, my company, actually will make long-range equations, because climate is very much based on solar parameters and always has been, and that makes global warming and all this political stuff all a bunch of hogwash. So 90% of climate is based on solar parameters. So we take these solar parameters and we say, okay, this causes that, that causes this. And so we take all, and we can figure out to the nearest day or week when a certain event is going to commence or end. And we're saying that right before the upcoming week, so this would be before the 11th of September, or right after, so it would be the 14th, 15th, or 16th, the market is going to crash more than it did in August. This is in the U.S. and in Europe.
Okay.
Then the second prediction, and we try and get as specific as possible. I know there's going to be potential naysayers out there by, oh, no, that prediction was bad. We missed it by 2 days. Okay, granted, we're just trying to do the best we can, projecting everything at an energy level and combining it with science. That's the best that we can do. And look, the motto of our company for 22 years, gentlemen, is crossing new thresholds. If we got up tomorrow and said, there's not going to be any cure for cancer, we cannot cross new thresholds in our understanding of the disease, then we're not going to go anywhere as a planet or as a humanity. So I always say, let's cross new thresholds. We may not get it right the first time, but at least we're moving forward in a positive intention. So in October, it looks like the third crash is going to happen right around October 20th. And it's going to be stronger, or I should just say stronger. It's going to be stronger than the September crash and the August crash put together combined. So there's going to be a lot of energy. And imagine a wave coming up literally on the graph, no pun intended. The energy week after week, all the way through October 20th is going to get stronger and stronger. So for anybody listening, if you've got headaches, if you've got vertigo, the number one thing that you can do at a health level is to take lots of immune-boosting herbal elements, and I'll get into that in just a second, and get much more sleep. I have people telling me, gentlemen, oh, I don't have enough time to sleep. I've got all this to do. Yeah, well, we all do. But if you really want to, quote-unquote, get aligned to this new frequency that is coming up, that is just going to boost us at a DNA level, and we'll get into that too, you have to, and I can't emphasize this enough, for the last 2.5 years I've been speaking about this, you must get more sleep. And it doesn't necessarily have to be raising your sleep duration from 8 hours to 10 or 11. It's literally getting enough REM sleep periods. So, for example, if you take just a quick nap and you get into that, yeah, okay, I feel better just after 20 or 30 minutes, that's what's going to make you feel a lot better and get rid of all these aches and vertigo and headaches. You're literally allowing the energy to come out through your crown chakra that's getting blocked up. That's what that vertigo, the heart aches, the dizziness, the headaches, the muscle aches, that's all trapped energy. It's like Kundalini energy coming up, you know where, and really giving you a jolt. And the only way to let that out is to sleep more.
Okay, and when will the wave stop? Is there a period when that wave is going to stop?
Yeah, it's literally going to be a day. And this is like us, and all this stuff, by the way, I'm telling you tonight, is really getting into more details than I've ever gotten into. So I think this is maybe the first time that people have heard this. We are literally going to see a day, and the newspapers will kind of report it in their own sort of code-like way, but it will be said that literally we could wake up on the 21st of October or thereabouts, and you will see something totally different about the world. And this is what we call Step 10. Each phase, remember it's 3 phases, phase 1, 2, and 3, will have 3 steps to it. It's kind of like Elliott wave theory in the financial markets, and this is where we got the idea. Hopefully we're not sort of, taking his copyright, but essentially it's 9 steps, and then the 10th one, the 10th step of after phase 3 of Wave X will come right around the 21st of October, after the big crash, and literally we will have the start or the seedling of brand new social, financial, and environmental systems.
So what about the likes of CERN and the elites? Surely they're going to try and put a stop to all this.
Absolutely. And that's where my sort of reputation got a lot of controversy with tens of thousands of hits on different videos. And I say this with all humility, but, when we get that many hits on a certain subject that's come up very quickly, we know we're on the right path because it jives with people. And what the powers that be are trying to do, and I'm talking about the Committee of 300, the Bilderberger Group, the Rockefellers, the royal families, the families, the richest, most powerful families that literally run this planet into negative ground. This is way above the puppets of most current presidents. They have bosses, and so forth. Henry Kissinger has bosses, George Soros has bosses, and they all want control. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the coin, we as humanity want more freedom. And again, it's going to take about 15% of humanity to seriously say, I want my freedom. It's kind of like a declaration of non-consent. And maybe I can send you that link so that you can put that on your website. But getting back to the question, what was it again?
Well, I was just talking about the elites in CERN.
Thank you. Thanks for keeping me on track here, because there really is so much to say.
Yeah.
So I basically got on air a number of months ago, and I said, CERN is not trying to find the so-called God particle. It is not trying to find the so-called quark, I think it's called. And people started asking me, well, what is it going to do? What is CERN all about? And I said, well, first of all, it's a black ops, $1 trillion plus machine where literally hundreds of billions of dollars have come out of the Federal Reserve System in America, and that's where all the money has gone to. They say, yeah, they've lent it to European central banks. Bar humbug. This has gone into CERN and other black ops projects like CERN, and the whole realization is that, like I've just said, the universe is just a ton of multiple dimensions. And the key to time travel, meeting other sentient beings from other cultures, other galaxies, other time wave distances, so to speak, this is through CERN. CERN is a collider. We all know this. It's a large hadron collider. But what it is, where that collider term comes into, is their objective is it's going to send out a huge beam of energy, and it's going to collide with wave X, which is the natural, universal, intelligent beam, or shall I say wave of intergalactic energy, coming towards Earth. The CERN projected energy is coming out of Earth into the wave, and their objective is to stop it. Now, why do they want to stop it? Because wave X is an evolutionary energy that has come through Earth millions of times throughout its history, and it evolves the planet and raises our level of consciousness. So we've been lied to for so many years, so many textbooks that say, oh yeah, we came from apes, and apes came from fish or reptiles, I forget what it is. All that's garbage. The way evolution works is electromagnetic evolution. And that is our theory that I'm putting out there tonight that I would love humanity to take up. It's going to be controversial. It's going to be argued about and debated. But I want people to remember that we need to cross new thresholds, because if we have to get out of this realm of control, we have to develop these new ideas to set ourselves free.
So what will happen, the negative, on the 21st of October? What's going to happen to all the negatives who don't vibrate on the frequency, or people who don't generally vibrate on the frequency?
Right, okay. So essentially, probably about 20 to 30% of the planet is going to wake up, literally, and have been waking up in the next, let's say, 6 to 7 weeks. And literally right around, gentlemen, the 21st or so of October, those 20 to 30% are literally going to just develop, literally overnight, and it's already happening. And I say that overnight, but in the course of weeks, those gifts that we were just talking about, the clairvoyance, the clairaudience, the levitation, the bilocation, and ironically, some people are just going to get too much ego into it and just start abusing these gifts. But many are going to start using those gifts to develop all kinds of new open source medicine, open source inventions. There'll be new economies. There'll be new cryptocurrencies. There'll be so much new stuff. It's almost like alternative news will just have a heyday with it. But the point is this. All the people that are not waking up, it's going to be so incredibly difficult for them. And so, imagine, it's almost like being at a classical music concert, being a hard metal fan. It's almost like it would be purgatory to them because they can't stand Bach or Mozart because they love, other heavy metal bands. It's a different frequency. And so all those people that are like, oh, yeah, I love Mozart, I love Bach, and so forth, they'll be doing great, and they will push the world forward. But at the other end of the spectrum, the people that are not waking up, that don't believe in any of this, that call me all kinds of names under the sun, they will be having a very tough time. And I've always said, and I put it out there on air, about 10 to 17% of a population. So, it might be 10% in Europe, it might be 17% or higher in the US, depending on certain factors. Realize that over 65 or 70% of Americans are taking at least 2 pharmaceutical drugs as we speak. And so the parameters there are much more dangerous to say, okay, 10 to 17% of the population in America is literally going to lose it. They're either going to go mentally insane, they're either going to go socially violent, and that, we've started to see for the last few years, but it's really ramping up. I'm just talking about nasty violence, very new types of violence, God forbid, and I'm not putting any ideas out there. There may be like cops that go AWOL, that just go out in a very violent way, shooting up people. There may be people that decapitate somebody in a downtown area. I'm just talking about horrible events that shows how much of the social chaos is happening. Because remember, like the previous guest that you had a few weeks ago said, as the wave X energy comes in, the positive energy will become more positive and the negative energy will become more negative. So you've got this higher, sort of this longer range of two ends of society, and there will be chaos and there will be just these beautiful events happening.
So while we're talking about the chaos, I might as well bring in the fact about the immigrants, what's going on over here and what's happening. And there's obviously two sides of the fence. Now, we heard a long time ago that in Ireland especially, that for us to get funding from Europe, they had to open up the borders and let everybody in. Now, what's happening now, and we have a chap called Peter Sutherland, who's one of the elites, Trilateral Commission and all these. He's one of the global elites. We know him very well over here. And when he turns around and recommends that people should be taking in the immigrants, you have to say, hang on a minute, there's something going on here. If Peter Sutherland is saying it, it's like Bill Clinton or George Bush or Obama saying, oh, you have to take in more. I mean, there's a lot going on in America regarding the dropping down of the borders and, Mexican people coming in there. Now, I'm just kind of putting it out there. I'm just kind of saying, well, what's your take on it? What have you heard anything about that?
Well, absolutely. Just if you go to Google News today, it says Pope Francis calls on Europe's Catholics to shelter refugees. There is a huge burger and immigration crisis in Europe right now. And the Pope is asking to have, so to speak, quote-unquote, Christian mercy by every church or religious group to take in a family of refugees. Now, let's make something very clear. We all want to be compassionate, but we all want to have abundance for ourselves. And so it's literally going to test the European community. I can say this. I think it would be so much better for each European country to leave as quickly as possible the European Union, because it is going to become an absolute disaster economically, because we have these liberals that have no clue about what's happening in general society, and they're causing literally a destabilization of society by allowing these things to happen. What we've got to do is we've got to help all of these other countries first by setting a sort of a standard of how people can live in peace and love. These people are leaving Syria. They're leaving northern African countries because the leaders have become corrupt, and I put this out there, they've become corrupt because there is CIA and other sort of intel dark ops putting in a lot of destabilization factors into the societies there, and they are causing people to be leaving because the structure of society is just falling apart. And we've done the research, hundreds and hundreds of pages and different events, and it all comes down to the CIA and other types of military, sub-military ops. This is above the government of the United States. There is some kind of shadow government. I know that's a bad phrase to use, but there is some kind of shadow government that is causing these destabilization units to come into those countries and literally cause society to be so hellish on Earth that it's causing those people to run north, and it's being done on purpose to destabilize the European Union. It's incredibly powerful.
It is incredible what's happening, and as I say, there's two sides to the fence, but when you actually look underneath the bonnet to what's going on, then you get a good idea. And I know,
exactly, and that's that research that I cite, and believe me, this is going to get so much more worse.
No,
I mean, you're going to get all kinds of violent chaos about people that are just standing up, that they've just had enough because these migrants are, so to speak, getting more than the actual poverty line of people that are citizens.
Well, that's what's happening in Ireland. You know, I mean, I don't have anything against the migrants, but the problem is that Ireland are saying we're going to bring them in and we're going to put them up in a hotel. But in Ireland, we have homelessness in our country, and people are being evicted from their homes. Yet the government go off and then bring in the immigrants and put them in a hotel. I mean,
that's it. That's it. Look, in the compassionate move, which is very important to me, because, you know, it's very important in joining together as brothers and sisters around the world. We're all equal. And what I'm saying, gentlemen, is that instead of blaming the migrants and blaming the leaders necessarily of these North African, Central Asian, and Middle East nations, it is the disruptive forces coming, and it leads to three things. It leads to the US, the UK, and Israel. And their Mossad and MI5 and CIA are causing a lot of disruptive units to literally cause population shifts around the world.
Yeah, and it's not got to do with a racial thing or anything like that. It's just being manipulated from the top, and the people down the bottom are being manipulated, and they don't realize that they're being manipulated.
That's it. That's it. So what we have to do, and I never, ever cite violence as a way to fix things. Never. We must individually and collectively rise above and use our mind power to think about transferring more energy into solutions. Now, what I mean by this is it's a brand new way of thinking, and this is going to become very, very more visible after the sort of the 9 waves of Wave X. This is where we get that extra, quote-unquote, power to be able to learn how to do this as a gift. Telepathy was an old type of communication originally used on Earth. The Atlanteans, the Lemurians used it, and it comes in packets of information, and it's so much more effective. There are gurus on the planet that can already do it, that are teaching it, just like Wim Hof. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's that Iceman, by teaching people how to change their thermostat in their body through mind control, literally speaking to yourself. Have you heard of Wim Hof?
I did hear he's the Iceman. He can withstand certain cold temperatures.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he has now doctors, just to go off a tangent here, but it's to say a point. He has doctors studying him, and he can actually show them how you can actually change the thermostat and any other autonomous functions in the brain. So it's this type of thinking that can actually go one step above that and get into the world of telepathy. And once we move things in telepathy, it actually moves energy. And once you move energy at a mass level, it's kind of like prayer. It is so powerful. We as a humanity are so much more powerful than any power that be, Council on Foreign Relations guy or the government of Ireland or whatever it is. We as a total population whole have so much more strength and power through our mind. But we've always been taught to use our bodies. Let's get our fists and weapons. No. The new awakening will be to use our minds to create new solutions. And this is all that's coming. We're going to have more peace and more abundance in the world as a whole starting in 2016. And in fact, I am so optimistic that I literally, as a scientist or as a futurist, go against, I would say, the majority of future forecasters saying that we've got hell to pay on Earth starting next year.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Right. we have loads of questions that have come in. So we're going to go off to the questions. We're going to quick fire them over to you and try and get try and get through as many as we can. Steve.
Okay, before I actually go into the questions that I have a question for myself. This wave that's coming in, this change, if there's going to be a lot of negativity going about, is there anything that we can do? And this is kind of it's an interesting question, because both Alan and I have done some research on material shungite, and it seems to have some great properties. And I'm just wondering, if there's going to be a lot of negativity, would that be a benefit to have some of that, or could you recommend something else that we could have to protect us?
Yeah, absolutely. So people say, well, let's just shut down CERN. Let's just get right to the problem. The problem is that if you get a lot of people and they say, yeah, we're going to shut down CERN, it is so complex a device that by shutting it down, it may literally backfire and be like a nuclear bomb, like in Fukushima, and blow up and literally cause a cloud that is of 10 dimensions, and wherever it goes, it erases or disappears people, cities. And that's how weird that thing can get. Remember, it is an accelerator of different particles, and this is the key, they don't tell you, of multiple dimensions. So if the thing backfires, you do not want this to happen on Earth. It will literally be hell on Earth. And that, of course, is not a 0% probability. I mean, it's like 0.0000001% probability that literally CERN could go awry. And I think there's been some of this out there, although exaggerated, but it could happen if enough people say, let's shut down CERN. So you want to be very careful. It's kind of like a farmer in a drought, and they say, oh, please, God, please bring me rain, please. But remember, the rule is, don't forget to tell the big guy in the sky how much you want. So the farmer, now I tell them, well, you better ask for 10 millimeters or 40 millimeters or whatever you want, because if you don't quantify the amount that you want, you may see a lot of flash flooding in that analogy. So essentially, when we look at CERN or anything else that we want to sort of calm or minimize, what you can do is literally start your own personal SWOT. And this is your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Start it on a sheet of paper and think how you can become a more positive being. Look, the simple rule is, and it's so simple, and this is why I love making it simple, is when you are able to elevate your own consciousness, that in and of itself is going to help the planet so much. And the more people that realize that, it's just literally is going to reach a critical threshold where X number of people can create X number of peace in X number of days. It's amazing.
Yeah, we've actually heard about that before, about people who have done that. There's been kind of these things who've been organised through social media where they've agreed to, everyone have positive intentions on a certain time and a certain day. And I think the last one was to try and actually to stop CERN from firing up. Now, I think we did hear that people were doing it, and it was successful. But so I mean, maybe there is something in this.
Yeah, exactly. Let me go one step higher so that we can keep this progress of humanity. It has to be at the telepathic level, and so you've got to be thinking, well, gosh, I don't know how to do that. The way to do it is to talk to your God self. This is your higher intuitive self. Make all major decisions through intuition and start communicating with this higher self that knows yourself best, knows your energy field the best. Once you start doing that, then you can start doing it telepathically. Like you can hear the thoughts, you command the thoughts, you can actually converse with the thoughts, and then you can actually practice it with somebody else, like try to mind read and do it in a positive way. Ask people to choose a number out of 10 and really focus on, like close your eyes and focus on the person. What could they be thinking? And you'll start to read the signs. Then, eventually, once you get good at that, you can actually go out on a walk, and you can actually be so aware of everything happening around you. That's the next part. The final part is actually hearing things into your mind and recognizing, wow, that is a thought coming into me that I should listen to. you write it down, and after you write these 10 thoughts or 20 thoughts or whatever it is, it gives you a picture. And that's the telepathic packet of information or intelligence that I was just previously talking about.
Okay, yeah. So people are actually saying on the chat room there that we should actually do this. We should try it. Well, I'm guessing we should because we've so much to gain and so much to lose if we don't.
Exactly. I mean, it really is the 90-10 rule that if you intent, and that's a verb, if you make an intention or intent something positive, 90% of the time it is going to have a positive reaction. The only time where positive intention is going to have a negative reaction is if you don't fully understand something in the negative field and it has some kind of, bad repercussion, like I said about CERN. So, for example, we don't know a lot about what CERN can or cannot do. So to say, for example, we're going to shut that down, you have to say, I shut down CERN in a safe and compassionate way so that the universal energy understands, okay, we're going to do it safely and we're going to do it compassionately so that nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Just while you were saying that, it reminded me of something that we've seen here a couple of years back, which was a video it's called The Secret. Actually, I can't remember who done it, but it was called The Secret, and they were talking about intention and intent, and it just made perfect sense, as you were saying, that, a lot of people, as you said, in the rain scenario, they want rain. Oh, make it rain. But I think when you're doing your intentions, you have to be specific, and you have to say exactly what you want, right down to the last letter. And then, as you said about CERN, we could all kind of go, oh, let's shut down CERN, but we have to. It has to be done in a safe manner because otherwise, all hell could actually break loose.
Exactly, I couldn't agree with you more.
Actually, right, I'll move on to the questions now, Simon. And one of the first questions that came in at the beginning of the show, and this was from Karen. Karen's in California. Hi, Karen. And Karen was wondering, have you heard anything about Dr. Stephen Greer allegedly dying?
I think it's disinformation. You're going to hear a lot of other things about people passing on, because their time has come, and this is a very important time for them to realize about an ascension. There is a lot of religious information going out there. And look, I'm not against any religion in the world, none, except when it gets to a negative behavior or something is against the best path of humanity. But I think it is disinformation, and you're going to, with the chaos that is coming with the WaveX, and yes, unfortunately, there will be more people than currently right now are suffering. There will be an increase in the suffering, but that's what people are awakening to, and then we can lower that, we can minimize that by doing all the exercises that I previously mentioned. But I think with Dr. Greer, I think he's fine.
Okay, that's good news. Sure, people will be happy to hear that he's not dead, because I know he's still a young enough man, and he's a lot more to do. Karen actually has a second question. She's wondering if maybe, Simon, you could elaborate on. She's wondering, what about HAARP causing the quakes, and space technology also, including lasers used to start the fires in the US? Karen goes on to say, we know the military wants to own the weather by 2025. I think that question came in around about when we were talking about the noises on the planet, and Alan said it was like twisted metal.
Wow, I just love this just shows you the quality of these questions coming in, shows you that people are really waking up. And look, I have to have like 18-hour days just to keep on top of this, because we're going all over the place here, and I just have to kind of keep up to what's going on as best as I can.
Yeah, there
is geoengineering happening on the planet in just magnified huge amounts, but only in mainly Agenda 21 areas. So that's the US, Australia, most of Europe, parts of China, and a few other countries. There is no chemtrails, none whatsoever. And I have only seen 1 in 3 years on the border of Argentina 2 years ago. But there's none down here where I live now permanently in Uruguay. And what this actually tells us is that it is not. Once you start traveling and you realize some areas are chemtrailed and some areas are not, you realize that this is all part of a ploy, well, for many different things, and maybe we can talk about that later. But yes, so there is geoengineering, and there are programs used by the shadow government, and I regret that I don't have a better word for it. We're still doing a lot more connective research on what is really going on, but it is a level of power that is far above the so-called Congress, which is owned and bought out many years ago by this group that I'm talking about. And they have weaponry that sucks money from the U.S. system. This is where Donald Rumsfeld couldn't track $2 trillion. It's amazing where a lot of money has gone, and it's all pretty much put into black ops projects. And one of those is kinetic weapons that are used, and it's not a laser, it is a magnetic energy that is not visible in the third dimension, in our dimension, but that can cause horrendous damage. One of these examples that just recently happened that we're pretty much honing in on right now in our research is this is what happened in Tianjin. Remember, China had dropped or devalued their currency of the yuan one time in in August, more than in any other point in history in 20 years.
Yeah.
And within 12 hours of that happening, there was what I call a super explosion. It was no chemical explosion. This was one of these high kinetic power weapons that was similar to a nuclear device, but it caused that huge crater. And then, obviously, they've used it at less of a power, because it has different intensities, in Shandong, where there was actually 2 different explosions in 2 different weeks. So there's been 3 explosions, plus the explosion at a munitions area just outside of Tokyo, a U.S. Army base. And so this was weapons going backwards and forwards between China and the U.S. And I've put out there a couple of weeks ago that China and the U.S. is now at a full currency/cyber war.
Yeah. Well, actually, just in relation to the kinetic weapons, one of the posters on the chat room there just said kinetic weapons used on the Twin Towers, steel beams dissolved in midair. Was that technology around back then? Could that have been used?
Yes, absolutely. They've perfected it. And exactly, there was, look, this is again very, very controversial. There was no planes that hit the towers. And I know this is going to be something that a lot of people just can't wrap their minds around it. I could not wrap my mind around this for years. We've been studying this for, like I say, almost, 15 years now.
Yeah.
And it is a combination. This is what is being combined. The holographic imagery that I talked about that's being portended or portrayed, or projected, I should say, out beyond the planet. And this is very important. It has to be projected outside of the planet, and then we see what we see. It's infiltrating the whole of humanity that way. Because think about it. It's coming towards us, and they're trying to, just be more efficient. So it's that type of holographic technology plus the kinetic power. Look, a lot of people out there, I'm not going to name names, but they're futurists or predictors or trends forecasters. They say there's going to be a nuclear war, there's going to be Armageddon. It's all hogwash, and it just sets you in more fear. We don't have to worry about nuclear weapons. We don't have to worry about, huge bombs taking out major cities like Chicago and stuff like that. What we do have to worry about is the false flags using psychological elements against society and creating social chaos and panic. And the number one prediction that I have always said with Wave X is, unfortunately, in October, there could be a certain event that could get a lot of people panicked because it is so out there and nobody has even ever thought about something happening like this, that it could be so giant a wave of energy, negative, hitting people, that it could really change things, and that's where society kind of goes through a reshift.
And what is that event?
Well, obviously, we have some ideas. I don't know if it would be very good to put on the air because I don't want to give people ideas. But, I mean, it depends what you think we should do.
Well, at the end of the day, they from what I've researched anyway, something big globally needs to happen to change the consciousness of people, to wake them up. Because we know there's people out there who are very, very hard to wake up, and something major has to happen.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's just say it. All right, but it needs a pretext.
Yeah.
What I'm about to say is done in the highest form of humanity for the greater good so that more people awaken quicker.
Yeah.
All right. We've already seen a type of this event. In the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of aircraft accidents.
Yeah.
But they're not just accidents. They are actually electromagnetic interferences. So, for example, most planes that go down receive some type of distress signal or report some type of distress signal if they're not hijacked. And it's usually with their instruments not reading correctly. This has happened since the 60s and probably before with the Bermuda Triangle and other energy portals. There's about 64 of them on the planet, whereby you get a octagonal or hexagonal column of energy coming out from the planet, and it is supercharged electromagnetics. And it will literally create a multi-dimensional space whereby a portal or stargate will open up and swallow whatever it is in that area. And this is where ships, planes, whatever, particularly in the Bermuda Triangle, the Dragon Triangle in the eastern part, in the Western Pacific, in the Far East. And there's, again, 64 other of these other dimensional portals that open up apparently at random. And this is also what CERN is trying to do. I've never said this on air, but I'll say it now. CERN is actually trying to open up these different portals so it can recharge and reinitiate the original Egyptian energy that used to communicate with other cosmic journeying entities of much higher powers. It all sounds very sci-fi, but apparently this is on the hieroglyphics of Egyptian pyramids, how they show actual torches or handheld devices. And these were energy beams that were able to create instant healing. This is why the government gets rid of RIFE, R-I-F-E. They don't want PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic frequency healing. They want the true drug and control, the chemo to cure cancer, and it does nothing but actually cause more cancer.
Well, I can confirm that, Simon. I was told that 2 weeks ago that from a whistleblower who said to me, I was speaking to, and they said that CERN was one of many gates that will be opened, and CERN is just the catalyst to open up the other gates.
That's it. Okay, so it's kind of a control, and I do confirm that with the gentleman that may be listening even tonight. The CERN is basically a command portal, and this is why they do all of these kind of Luciferian or satanic dances when they do certain types of exercises. There's all types of things that go on. And this is where this type of entity power comes from. It's from a very, very dark space. And religion aside, this is going back to this duality where there is, even near-death experiencing people have gone into that space and they've said, whoa, there is the light and there is this darker space. And ironically, they've got it all backwards. When you move into the actual light, that is the actual darker area, so that you don't get to escape the karma on Earth, and you've got to go down this black hole, so to speak, to get out of this suffering. It's very, very interesting what a lot of near-death experiencing people are saying. But look, I'll talk about that another time. Let's go back to I'm sweating here. There's so much to say. There is with CERN. there is, at a multi-dimensional level, the power that could come about in the future is just huge. And I just just talked about how the planes have literally, we've had 2 planes that have had literally disappeared. One was what was it called, 370?
Yeah, the Malaysian plane, yeah.
That's right, and I'm forgetting the other one. It wasn't the German wings, but there was another one that literally was not found. The very interesting things happened at those exact moments, not only at a climate level, but also from a solar level. If you go back to the data, some very powerful solar waves happened at that period, but there were also these incredible convective thunderstorms that were just literally off the charts in intensity, with lightning and all kinds of, like a pulse that literally come out from the planet. And in that zone, these planes have literally disappeared. And I think, obviously I can't say with any certainty, but I think, connecting the dots, that it was literally experiments using this new type of weaponry that the U.S., Israel, and the UK have jointly co-created. They're kind of in charge of it, so to speak. You know, the shadow governments control those governments, but those are the 3 governments that are mainly using this. Yeah. And this is the ones that makes literally China and Russia just, literally tremble in their boots, because they realize that they could literally create, and this is what I'm going to now predict, they could literally create a multi-dimensional cloud over an enemy nation that could literally disappear it.
Wow.
And we're talking about a sci-fi reality that would get so scary, so to speak, and I cancel clear this thought as I say it, but it could get so scary that literally it would just put humanity into what I call an electromagnetic enslavement. In other words, we've seen slavery in the past, in decades and centuries past, using shackles. Tie that guy up or tie that woman up with a ball and chain. That is not necessary anymore. When they did the human genome and mapped the whole DNA, they've actually done a bigger project, and that's mapping the human brain. It's so much more important to the powers that be, because now they know how the brain works and how we are literally connected to a consciousness, one source universe, and how they want to disrupt that consciousness link so that we are literally enslaved electromagnetically with the brains just being controlled. I mean, you can do this chemically with lithium. You can, in the public water. You can do this with sound frequency weapons that have been used in riot control in the U.S., like Ferguson, and these are all against the Geneva Convention, but they're still using them. And you've probably heard about the NSA in America building these 500-foot towers and then connecting them at an electromagnetic level.
They're the Grand Towers.
Yep. So you can so the whole point of that is that you can control a multiple city rioting, and this is probably going to be used when they change the American financial system in either late 2017 or early 2018. That's what our connective research points to. That it will be so much of a societal shift for people to go through. You see it right now. People are arming up with the guns. There was record sales for the month of August in America. And what people don't understand, Alan and Steve, is that they're just, people are just sitting ducks. They think that the guns and the weapons and a lot of food will help them. But what they're not focusing on is that the weaponry is all electromagnetic, and our brains are cued into that. So you could have people just fully controlled, and this is why they're not taking guns off of the market. See, in connective research, you have to think how the bad guys or how your enemy is thinking. And this comes from Sun Tzu. You know Sun Tzu, right? The Art of War.
Yeah.
Well, you take Art of War, Sun Tzu, and you elevate it to, quote-unquote, the next dimension. This is what the strategists. This is what the intelligence community does at this darker level. You have to pick that mind. And that's what becomes so hard, is you have to literally sit down and think like one of those bad guys. Okay, what could they do? Well, they could literally, sort of make everybody into what we were talking about off air, those zombies. And ironically, this is why the feds and the CDC have this as type of, they have a page about zombies on their federal website.
Yeah.
And so they're putting out, see, for them karmically, they have to put out certain connecting points. And by the way, you just take the movie, what was the name of the actor with War Z? Remember War
Brad
Z?
Pitt, yeah. Brad Pitt.
Rob Pitt. Okay, Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt, yeah.
So that movie, okay, is about a certain disease, right, that gets into the brain and so forth and makes everybody a zombie, and then it's really horrific.
Yeah.
But what they were really talking about, and this is why I do not appreciate actors, and forgive me for saying this for all the fans out there, but Brad Pitt is working on the inside. And he knows what this movie's really about. And it's about the control, the electromagnetic control of a population. And think about it. If one city is electromagnetically controlled and all the shadow government is pumping in these ideas, get vaccinations, keep your kids inside, and then those people are traveling back and forwards to another city that is not controlled, think of the social restlessness that will be created, and they just create their own sort of mini war inside a law society, and they let everybody go their own way doing that. It's very dangerous, and this is the new type of, so to speak, war that I think the shadow government is trying to get into our society. Well, it's being done at a similar level with the migrants. They're doing the unrestlessness. They're doing they're putting in these factions, these CIA factions, to make the movement more restless, to get people out. I mean, it's almost like people are running away from the boogie machine.
Well, I think Simon,
why 100,000 people coming up to Hungary?
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, there was a movie years ago called Escape from New York. And it basically put all the convicts and everything else on Staten Island, I believe, and they let them kind of fight it out for themselves. And maybe there's going to be a case of that. But listen, I'm just watching the time. We have about 15 minutes left, and I know we have a couple of questions, and then we have to talk about the positive stuff in the end, because there is positives coming out of this.
Absolutely, there's lots.
So I'm going to go over to Steve. We'll do the questions. We'll quick fire the questions over to you, and then we'll spend the last 15 minutes talking on the positives. Steve.
Yeah, hopefully there are some positives. But again, if we're talking about these big machines that can control populations, we could be in for a bumpy ride. But just jumping back very quick, Simon, to the holographic stuff that you spoke of just a short while ago. We did hear a long time ago that some of the components in the chemtrails is something to do with holography or whatever it's pronounced. Is that true, or is the chemtrail scenario is that for some other nefarious purpose?
No, it is nothing to do with the holograms. It's actually for other nefarious purposes. Number one, the actual micro elements of the spray that we see is to reflect sunlight back out to space. And they reckon that in parts of America, London, and other major cities in Europe, that up to 8 to 10% of the heat caused by the sun bringing into Earth is actually reflected back out. And that's why a couple of years ago, there was that frigid period. I think it was about 3 years ago, where France was down like minus 20 Celsius down in Paris. So what this is creating is huge amounts of extremes in temperatures, and it's also, and this is the other thing that hasn't been talked about, it's also sending back a plethora or an abundance of this new consciousness energy. So it's to trap and throw back all of that evolving, positive, consciousness, levitating energy so that more people remain dumbed down. Now, obviously, chemtrails, it's being talked about, they've got aluminum and barium. That's just the beginning of it. But it has more to do with the consciousness energy being thrown back out into space.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, we actually had a couple of years ago too. We had, speaking of the bad weather, we had a kind of a mad run up to Christmas where we normally got a little bit of snow, but we had a couple of feet of snow, I think. I think that was in around about that time.
2010.
2010. So it was 5 years ago.
It was probably about 3 or 4. Maybe I don't think it was 5 years ago, but it was. It's about that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this geoengineering is just out of hand in some cities. But you come down here, and the usual American or British or German person traveling here that I've met, be like, they keep on looking up because they can't believe how blue the sky is.
Yeah, I've actually seen some footage of some skies around the world. It could have been Uruguay. I'm not 100% sure, but I did see pictures, and they were saying they were talking about the pressure and the millibars and how a day should look when the millibars are a certain level and all this carry on.
Yep.
And they were saying in this country this is the weather conditions, and here's a picture of the sky, and it was blue. And they were saying here's the same roughly the same barometric pressure in Ireland, and we should have a blue sky too. And you look up and it's just a haze, like a milky white haze.
It's the haze.
Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of people, by the way, have also talked about nanotechnology. That is becoming the new part about geoengineering. How the certain technology is now pumped into the chemtrails, including potential viruses. Although I must say that when we did the connection of connect the dots in that research, I did not find any proof of any virus yet. God forbid.
Yet. But then again, if they did, I wonder, because they're doing that at a kind of high altitude. Well, then again, I was going to say, would it the virus fall to the ground? Would it do what it wants to do?
Now you've run a point there. See, what also the geoengineering does is it lowers the immunity system of a population or of an animal herd. So, for example, if you look back at the chemtrails over the upper Midwest 6 months, a year, 2 years ago, it was just unbelievably high. And then we had the 30 to 50 million turkeys die in that major region of the world where they breed them. And we've seen this with birds, we've seen this with pigs, we've seen this with cows, even in the last 10 years. And so, essentially, if you ask the average person in America, especially, this is where most of our research was done on this, how have you been feeling lately? People feel like their immune system is suffering. Many more people have disease. And by the way, get this, cancer rates in America now are 38% higher than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not. That's no surprise at all, really.
Yeah, 1 in 2 people now that are getting cancer, apparently.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's very high.
It's so. And look, I'll put it out there on air just so everybody knows. There is a cure to cancer and diabetes and muscular dystrophy and a lot of other diseases. But the FDA doesn't want me or anybody saying this. And they'll actually say it's illegal in the U.S. to say that. Well, I'm in Uruguay, and here we have the sovereign republic of the Uruguay nation, so I can say that. And I'm going to say it again. There is a cure for cancer, and you should look up RIFE, R-I-F-E, or PEMF, Pulse Electromagnetic Frequency, and go down that road and go into alternative healing, and that is going to be the new awakening also.
Yeah, we've actually covered that topic many times on this program, and we've talked about the Raymond Rife and all that kind of technology. So the guests will be well versed.
Yeah, we have there's about 6 cures that we talk about that are out there that we've talked about. But Simon, we have about 10 minutes left. So let's work on the 2 questions.
Well, I've got one question and a comment.
Okay, very
right.
Very
I'll go with the question first. If you can just maybe quick forward this one, Simon.
Yeah.
This is from Chris. Chris is saying, can you ask Simon where does he get all this information from?
Well, fantastic question. I've been an atmospheric scientist for 27 years, and I've been a macroeconomist for 12 years. So essentially what I started doing is grabbing something and all this sort of information that comes out. Anything that sort of was suspicious or unique, or something that was just big news, like 2-3 standard deviations, so we'd say in a statistical sense, and I'd map it like on a big map. Imagine a wall like 20 feet long and 10 feet high. You get this big map and you make all these connecting points, and then the key is to connect them. Well, then I heard about algorithms, and so essentially what I've started doing is looking at solar data and then realizing, oh my gosh, the solar data 82% of the time was actually forecasting or predicting massive droughts or floods around different parts of the planet. So then we got those algorithms, we figured that one out. And so basically what it is it's no major PhD here. It is literally connecting dots of major news, research, innovations, discoveries, and figuring out, like we've been saying over the last hour and a half, what the connection is. That is the spiritual science awakening that I call spirit science. And so it's no major sort of Einstein way of doing this. It's not like 22 pages of calculations. It's literally somebody that is aware, and I have a team, and I get together with them at an international level with conferences, and I say, okay, guys, what are we talking about? And then we start researching and going as deep as we can. We do not have all the answers. So, that's what I want to discuss, and that's the whole point of me coming on your show, is discuss some of these, but let's cross new thresholds and take it to a new positive level.
Okay. Thank you for that, the short answer. I know you could probably give us a 3-hour answer, as you said earlier. Just another one, a quick comment here from John. John is wondering, are you aware that the Air Traffic Collision Avoidance System, TCAS, and Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcasts, ADSB, has been shut down or will be spotty, extending up to 200 miles offshore on the eastern seaboard of the United States?
Yes, and the reason for this is because now through October, we are getting so much positron solar energy that it could create literally, and this is what our research shows, it could literally cause warps if the airplane, let's say if the pilot gets this information with all of the multi-dimensional energy coming in, it could literally create some kind of false information to the pilot, and you could get a lot of planes literally diving out of the sky.
Okay, well that's interesting. We have to kind of watch out for that. Right, with the few minutes that we have left, Simon, what positives can we take out of what's going to happen?
Well, the first thing is, and for everybody listening, I so much appreciate you joining us on Open Your Mind Internet Radio tonight. The first thing is to really look at yourself in the mirror and love yourself. And I don't mean that in some kind of woo-woo 70s way, all right? What I'm talking about is adjusting and raising your vibration. This is the best that you can do for yourself and the planet. There is no use getting on the TV, listening to all the negativity, and just listening for the next rotation of fear event. I mean, this is what they do. They do Korea every 6 weeks. They do Iran every 9 weeks. They do X every 3 weeks and Y every 9 weeks. It's literally like a rotator. That's what I call it, a rotator of news just to keep you in fear mode. You basically have to declare that I am a sovereign being and that I am looking forward. I'm not looking back. I'm moving myself forward in the name of love, peace, abundance, and security. And once you do this, then you start doing everything that we've talked about tonight. You become more telepathic, you become more empathic, you start looking for more solutions. And always remember, when you do your personal SWOT, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, look at how you can become more entrepreneurial. There are so many solutions that are needed out there. Think about the migrants. What solution, as an entrepreneur, could you do with a group of people? There is so much money out there, believe it or not, from angel investors and from groups looking to fund new solutions and ideas like, for example, desalinization from just taking water out of the air. Think And don't become a corporate debt slave. Become your own person and move forward into the light.
Excellent. Okay. And so the next few weeks is going to be very telling for people, and just for them to be aware, open-minded, and be aware that there are going to be changes taking place, and they might physically have symptoms, but it's because of this wave that's coming in, and not to panic too much.
That's right. I mean, look, it's like the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid. I could have come up with, well, this is the 10 things that you have to do starting from next Wednesday. 98% of people are going to forget it. Once you can just do something simple, like look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, beautiful, I love you. I know it sounds kind of woo-woo and a little bit weird, especially for us guys, but it starts off the cycle of raising the vibration. And if we are going to battle, so to speak, the darker forces, we have to start with ourselves, and then we can accelerate together, because we've got to all realize, migrant or non-migrant, we are all on a journey of movement, and we've got to stick with the flow.
Okay. And just very quickly, do you think there is going to be a financial reset?
Not until, well, it's going to come in stages, but the dollar is not going to crash, so to speak. It's not going to become a different system until late 2017 or early 2018. We've got to go through this shift first. Then there'll be a reset of a very, very positive year in many ways in 2016 as people develop these gifts. And then, unfortunately, 2017, there'll be more and more financial negativity. And I must make this comment. Like I said on the Skyaia show, look it up if you haven't seen it, but get your money out of the market. And I'm talking pensions, IRAs, anything in the market. Even if you have to take a 20 or 30% tax deduction, get it out and get it into land, water, energy, or gold or silver, preferably silver.
Excellent. Well, don't leave it in the bank, that's for sure. Take it out of the bank.
No, you only want an amount per month that you can pay your bills, but become a non-debt slave. You want to get out of the system as fast as possible. And for some people, that's going to take a year to 2 years. And like I said, 2017 late, it's going to go somewhat into maybe a cryptocurrency whereby everybody's going to be tracked. At least that is what they want to do.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant, Simon. Well, listen, I think we're going to have to do a part 2 in a few weeks' time, because there's so much more. The stuff that we didn't talk about that we're going to have to talk about. So,
well, that would be a privilege, and I appreciate that, gentlemen. I look forward to it. Then let's say that by maybe October 20th, somewhere around there, either just before or just after.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll have a look at the schedule and definitely do book you in for part 2. And then we can actually talk about basically what's going on and what has gone on. So that would be a good thing to do. I'm going to pass you over to Steve, Simon. Steve is going to get all your details so people will know where to find you.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, Simon, it's been great information. I know, as we say all the time, use discernment. Some of the information may not resonate with people. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people may think it's kind of very, very way off the cuff information, but it's just information. At the end of the day, people can do with it with what they wish. If people want to believe what you're saying and act accordingly, well, then that's fine. If they wish to ignore what you're saying and don't act, well, that's fine too. But you've put the information out there, and I think that's all you can do.
That's right. Let me just re-emphasize, if I may, gentlemen, that this is humble advice from the heart. Everything that I have said comes from a positive mind frame. I've researched it for hours over years, and just every intention is positive, and you can take what you want and then at least empower yourself with the rest. Thanks so much for having me. It really means a lot.
No, it's great to have you on, Simon. It really is. You gave us your website at the top of the show, skyaia.com, skyaia.com, is where people can find out some more information. Is that the only link you have, or do you have, is your Facebook or a YouTube link up on that site as well?
Yeah, actually, I love people when they join my Twitter family, because it literally is that a family of energetic brothers and sisters, and it's simply at Dr. Dr. Simon Atkins.
Okay, I'll write that down. I'll get that up in the chat room.
Brilliant stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, Simon, just stay with us there for a minute. We're going to go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Yes, YMCA, and as I just said to Alan there, why not YMCA? A bit of village people there. Look, there's a lot of information has kind of come into your mind over the past almost 2 hours, so just a little bit of fun. But again, look, you use discernment. I know there was a lot of people positive comments. There was also some negative comments. I've actually jotted down some of the negative comments here. I'm not going to read them out actually, but there was a couple of negative comments, and at the end of the day, it's just information. That's all we can say. Use your own discernment. We're not telling anybody that you must believe this. We're just saying, well, hang on a second. Here's someone who's very popular, and this is what this is the research they've done. We want to share it with you. At the end of the day, you can think it's a pile of poo and throw it out. No, baby with the bathwater. That's fine. That's okay.
We're just sharing information. That's all. You have to make up your own mind. Now, we said we would do Alan and Steve's week at the end, so that's what we're going to do. Very quickly, because we've only 10 minutes left. Steve, how's your week?
Yeah, my week's been fine. There's not much happened, to be totally honest. So I watched some videos on YouTube, stuff that you sent me over during the week in relation to black goo. That's a favourite topic of Mr. Miles Johnson. So Alan sent me over some information in relation to that. I watched some of that, and I'll be honest with you, I watched possibly half, if even half, and I switched off the video because, again, it wasn't something that was really it just didn't really hit me at this moment in time. Maybe in a couple of 100 years I might watch it again, but no, I've been watching kind of what's going on with Irish Water. There's seemingly an announcement made there, as I think was it today, that Irish Water, because of all the protests, and again, it's like our government, they haven't I was going to swear. I was going to say the F word. They haven't a clue what they're doing. And seemingly now, because of all the protests, and Irish Water's here to stay, and all this carry on, it was announced in one of the broadsheets today that Irish Water registered, against our will or our knowledge, everybody in Ireland. Did you hear that one? So Irish Water, they've registered everyone. So I think we're supposed to take that as, there's nothing we can do now. We're all registered. No, that's not. It's not. We're not registered. But anyway, look, there's so much going on. You got to keep grounded. You have to just keep your wits about you. And again, with everything you hear, be it here or on mainstream media, use discernment. If it doesn't feel right, then it's not right for you. If it does, well then maybe go with your gut instinct. Anyway, they're my words of wisdom for this week. Sorry, nothing more really. How's your week?
Okay, just very quickly, well done for last week, by the way, for taking care of the show and doing what needs to be done.
There wasn't much to do, really. I just had to gabble on for a few minutes, as you say.
I did have a look at the chat room, and there was a few comments got to do with the subject matter of mediumship, and there was something about Satan and Luciferian and all that kind of stuff. And look, at the end of the day, everybody has their opinion, but it depends on what your opinion is based on, really. So you have to kind of open your mind. And I think my path took a different route. I wasn't going down the mediumship route. Obviously, OYM was a calling, and that was my calling. But it was a good experience being involved in the spiritual side to get an understanding of what was involved. And that was quite interesting. So, and Mark did have a good platform last week. It was a very, very good show. Very entertained people and comforted some people on platform in the audience. So it went down very well. And the other thing I was just going to say is, for what it's worth, my idea is I think we need to get more independent Clare Dailies, TDs, in the Dáil, because they investigate and they expose what's going on. I know it's going to be very hard to get a party in there that's kind of left side for us, for the people. So the best thing would be probably to vote independents in who are kind of like Clare Dailies. And we had a lot of them exposing what was going on. We'd soon bring down the system. I'm pretty sure anyway. That's what we need. We need, crimes exposed by the elites, and we need people that have morals and empathy for the people. And there are a number of independent TDs that do have them senses. So That's what I think. That's for my penny's worth. That's what I think we need. But anyway, so there you go. So that's it really. So I'm coming to the end of the show. I'm going to finish up. Everything's in the podcast, so this should be active within the hour after the show. You should be able to tune in and pick up the podcast. But for myself, Alan James, take it easy, have a safe week, and hopefully we'll sort out all our problems by next week with our guests. Our guest next week will be Garnet Scholheiser and hopefully Alison from the Burn Doctors. That's going to be interesting information. And you'll be that's going to open your mind to what they're doing, what the Burn Doctors are doing. And Garrett Scholhauser, well, basically, he met his spirit guide. He was a down and out, a tramp that was sitting down, and he sat down and got talking to him and found out that was a spirit guide. Quite interesting, a great story. So we'll hopefully have Garrett on next week as well. But for myself, Alan James, take it easy, have a good week, and we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, and for myself, Stephen George, it's been a thought-provoking show. As I say, the information may not resonate with everyone, but that's okay. That's okay. We're not trying to convince you of anything or tell you what to believe. You know, there's enough people trying to do that, like governments, mainstream media, and organised religions. We're not doing that. We're just putting the information out there and saying to you, there it is. Make of it what you wish or what you will. Anyway, it's been a good show. We'll do it all again next week. So until then, take care. For myself, Stephen George, good evening.
Open your mind.